Go ahead. Turn it up. It's the Record Machine Show with your host, Jimmy Howe.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the band Raygun Romance, singer, multi-instrumentalist, Ty Oliver. Ty, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How's it going?
Pretty good here, man. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Burbank, California. Well, LA, California, we'll say.
Wow, is that where you're from originally?
No, I'm from, I grew up in Santa Cruz, which is like a bit north, more like Bay Area, closer to like San Francisco kind of thing.
Okay, but you've been in California most of your life, right?
Yeah. I mean, I lived in Vegas for like about a year, but mostly in California, man. Yeah.
Very cool. Now tell me about your musical background. When did you first get involved in music?
Yeah, so I was like a kind of like a skateboard kid, grew up by the beach, and then when I was like, I want to say like 15 or so, weirdly, like all my friends suddenly just kind of got the music bug, and like one guy got a bass, another guy got a bass, and then another guy was playing guitar, and like I around the same time had like kind of been like noticing drums and thought they were cool, and this is like I don't know, I was like 15 or so, and once I remember going over to a friend's house who was new to it too, and he had like a bass, and I just remember I had I liked music or whatever, but like I remember picking it up and like just sort of like messing around with it and like hearing just even sort of a sound that sounded like something that I heard on like from a band I liked, and I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And then I was like, oh, like I said, I had been interested in drums, so I was like, then I got really like fired up about it. And at the time, I remember going to I was in high school, and one of the guys I hung out with like was in the band class or whatever, and there was a drum kit at school, and I remember going in on my lunch break and like sitting behind the kit there and getting to like play a drum kit and like hearing it live, and I was like, oh, this is definitely I want to do this. And shortly thereafter, I remember convincing my mom to let me get a drum kit, and then which was really cool of her. And then she was nice enough to let me get one. And then all the guys that I hung out with, like one guy, like I said, one guy played bass, one guy played guitar, and they came over and jammed one day after school, and like after I got a kit, and like that was it. Once we all got together in the same room and like pulled like one part into it, like one riff into another, that was it. I was hooked. I'm like, that's it. This is the fucking greatest thing I've ever done. This is the best thing ever. I'm like, this is fucking magic. I want to do it, So yeah, that started it. Yeah.
And you play multiple instruments, correct?
Well, I mean, I started out on drums, and then a couple years in, I got interested in guitar. And I kind of switched back and forth for a while, and then I got really, really like focused on. I was like, okay, I'm gonna play guitar now, and that's what I did most of my life. For like, I mean, I was a guitar player for the longest time, and then just recently, I started dabbling with like electronic stuff and like a laptop and like doing MIDI stuff with a keyboard, and then eventually somehow fell into doing vocals. Like that was totally by accident, but like I never intended to do that. I was a guitar player for like most of my life, but yeah.
Yeah, and you played guitar in the band Powerman 5000. What was that experience like?
So yes, that was like, I mean, again, like I said, I focused on guitar for a bunch of years, and somehow, and I was a fan of Powerman. I was just a total fan, and didn't know any of them, didn't have some connection in LA or anything like that. It just totally fell in my lap after years of trying to quote unquote make it. And so long story short, I'd been like, doing my own thing, and then playing in other people's bands in the Bay Area, like I said, and I got to a point where I was getting a little bit older, and like I had a day job, and like I was in this band with some younger guys, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna go do this tour," but they were all like in their 20s, and like they could go quit their job, and like it was no big deal. And I was like, "Yo, you guys, I can't
right.
go sleep on mom's couch, like I can't," And no, it was.
I believe
I know
it.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny now, but at the time I was like, had this like midlife crisis where I'm like, oh, I can't do that, you guys, and it was like a bummer, and I was kind of like, shit, well, what does that mean? So now I'm just sort of like the guy who tried to make it, and I'm like the weekend warrior, and that's how it was for a minute, and so I just kind of accepted it, and I'm like, well, I tried, I'm older, but at least I'm still playing music on the weekends, kind of thing. And then out of nowhere, I got this. I was at my lame 9-to-5 warehouse job, and on Facebook when I should have been working, and I got this email from the guitar player at the time, Nick, and from Powerman, and he was like, "Hey Ty, do you have any like video of you playing live?" And I was like, yeah, whatever you want, sure. But it was like super just out of nowhere. But at the time I was also very, like I said, I was a fan, and I was like very active on all their social media, just being a fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think somehow that caught someone's attention, and that's like why someone reached out to me. But so he hit me up, and then it turned into, hey, can you video yourself playing these songs, and send them to me like within the next day or so. And I was like, absolutely, yes. And so I did I busted my ass and did what they asked. And then it turned into, hey, can you come down for an audition, on this day? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I did my homework, drove down there after work one day, and I was like 6 hours away. And, and long story short, it turned into me getting a gig in that band and being in it for, 5+ years. So yeah, it was crazy, man. It was so out of left field and like I said, totally given up on like making it. And then that happened. And I was like, holy shit, this is happening. Yeah. Kind of thing. So
that's a very cool story. Now, I believe every band or artist is influenced by someone. Who is some of yours?
Oh, dude. Okay. So it really started out when our neighborhood finally got MTV in like 1990.
Mm-hmm.
That's, before that, like I liked music or whatever, but like it was mostly like what my friends were listening to. And so I didn't really, it wasn't anything I took seriously. But I remember when we finally got MTV in our neighborhood, and then I could see it on TV all the time. Like that was huge. Like all of a sudden, then I was like watching it all the time. And so early right away, I was like, it was like Billy Idol, INXS, hair metal was huge. Fucking Warrant, Cherry Pie was on MTV all the time. And so I started paying attention and like liking music. And so but when I got into music and started playing it, then it, I like drummers. I like Velocilize from Slaughter, Tommy Lee from Motley Crue. And then it turned into, I started liking guitar stuff. I got into metal. Mm-hmm. Megadeth, Pantera, fucking whatever was going on, at the time, type, metal stuff. But then over the years, like I'm just a rocker. Like I like rock stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It can be 80s hair metal. It can be alternative stuff from the 90s. It can be modern rock stuff from, 20 years ago to the last 5 years to 10, but I like rock. But,
mm-hmm.
Like I said early on, it was a lot of guitar stuff, and then it transitioned into just more band songwriter stuff, and then more recently, I'm just a rock guy, But I love the '80s. Like I'm kind of an '80s kid, and it started out with like guitar stuff, and then now I'm more just like top 5 bands. I like INXS, Angels and Airwaves. Jesus Jones,
mm-hmm.
The 1975, and say like Aha or like Simple Minds or something like that. But I also love hair metal. I'm a huge hair metal nerd, so I'll leave it. I'll stop there.
Yeah, you mentioned Billy Idol, Steve Stevens. What a great guitar player, right?
Dude, absolutely. And and that leads into, I love him with Billy Idol, but he also did stuff with Vince Neil from Motley Crue, which was badass. And he's a fucking badass.
That tune, You're Invited But Your Friend Can't Come, that was a great song. He played guitar on that, correct?
Yeah, well, I remember when that came out, because that was like when Vince Neil left Motley, and like suddenly he got kicked out or fired or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like he came out, I remember that very well, because he came out swinging, and it was like, oh shit, like he's coming out like he's his own guy now. Like this is badass. And suddenly Steve Stevens was like in his band.
Yeah.
And it was a big thing. And like I remember that album, that he put out, and like him doing like a performance on think it was like the MTV Video Music Awards or whatever, and like suddenly Steve Stevens from Billy Idol was in his band, and it was like, oh shit, this is a real deal. And yeah, I thought that was so fucking cool, like. But yeah, Steve Stevens, somebody that I've always thought was like a super mega badass player. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's very cool that he's still with Billy. They're doing shows, I think, in Vegas now.
Yeah, dude, I saw Billy Idol at the Roxy in like November, and him and Steve Stevens still killing it, man. Totally.
That's awesome. Now let's talk about the name Raygun Romance. Where did that derive from?
So when I decided I started to like dabble. I just got the creative itch to do something new and creative, in like late 2018. And I had some demos that I had just sort of like had on my computer for a while that I decided to kind of resurrect and start messing around with. And I knew I wanted to do something like electronic. I was like, I don't care if there's any guitar on it or anything like that. I want to do something more electronic. And so once I got a batch of songs together that I thought were solid and like, cohesive, so to speak, I was like, oh, I want to make like a project. Like I'll just do a studio thing. Like I'll put out some songs and I'll get somebody to sing on it. I just wanted to make like a project with these songs, and I was like, I need a name. So I wanted it to be like futuristic and sexy. So that was my idea in my head initially. And so I just started like thinking, like focusing, like what would be cool, what would sound cool. Mm-hmm. And it literally it just fell into my head. I was like, oh, Raygun Romance. Okay, that's kind of cool. And I was like, probably going to be taken. Like that has to be taken out there. And I Googled it. I looked around. I did kind of my homework on it, and nobody had it that I knew of that, like, and so I just was like, all right, that's it. I think that's, and I think I said the name to my girlfriend, and I was like, just to get her like knee jerk reaction. My girlfriend at the time, and she was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, all right, so it doesn't suck. That's not lame. Yeah. I was like, and so I was like, okay, I think I'm going to roll with that. And, there it is. That's how it came about. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, how do you approach songwriting? What's your creative process like?
Oh man. It can be, most of the time it starts out with, so I write, I have a keyboard and I do stuff MIDI. I'm not, it's all just created on my laptop and whatnot, electronically, which I have no shame in saying that. But it can start out with, I'll sit down and just create like a bass line, a keyboard part that I like, or a drum beat, and I build it from there. But usually this starts with one line or something, and then I'm like, oh, this sounds cool, I want to build upon this, and it goes from there. And then the singing and lyric part, again, like I mentioned earlier, was never intended. I never intended to sing or do any of that. And like, so that came later, but that's something that like, I don't ever, that's always like the last ingredient. Like I start with the music, and then I just I start trying to put, words and melodies over it. But it always starts with like the music skeleton, so to speak. Yeah.
Cool. Now your album, Between the Lines, which is available now, it's on all the streaming platforms, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you talk about that a little bit, the album?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So okay. So like I mentioned just a minute ago, I started this project, and I had, when I started it, it was just going to be a studio thing. I had a handful of demos. I met this producer, and mix engineer, named David Nazi, through a friend, and he was super on board to help me out. And I basically hit up this singer, that I knew from the MySpace days, because, I didn't have anybody to sing on it. And I was like, hey, would you be interested in doing this project with me? She was like a hired gun kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's how it initially started. This was like 2019. And, she was on board for the first 6 songs. And then in that time, I ended up getting some guest vocalists on board with it. Ryan Schock from Orgy and Julian K, because Power Man went on tour with Adema, who Ryan sings for.
Mm-hmm.
And I just bugged him on the road. He's the nicest fucking guy. And I was like, dude, you're gonna sing on a track of mine. He was like, oh, sure, okay. So, but I got to see him every day. So I was like, he was so nice about it. But Aesthetic Perfection guy, Daniel Graves, that's just somebody that like I was a fan of, and I literally just emailed him and said, hey, I have this project. Would you be down to do a guest vocal on it? And he just randomly hit me back. Like I've never met him.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him in LA in passing. And he doesn't know me, and he just did it and sent it back randomly one day. So, okay. Again, long story short. So it started out as just a studio thing. I had a producer and a guest vocalist and a hired gun kind of thing. And then once all those songs came out and it was done, like the girl that I had on as a vocalist, like she had her own thing going and went back to doing her thing. And then I was still writing music, and like I wanted to keep going, and I was still very creative at the time and wanted to keep the whole thing going. So all of a sudden I had nobody to sing on it, and I was kind of just stuck. And through necessity, I just was like, after being frustrated with like writing music and having no one to sing on it, I was just kind of like, you know what, I'll try and do a song with my own voice, which was terrifying and never intended. And I was like, oh no, I'm kidding myself. Like this will never work. Like I'm not a singer.
Mm-hmm.
I'd only done karaoke. This is all leading up to the album. I promise. And so I did a cover song that I thought maybe I could handle. It wasn't the greatest, which led into me doing another cover song, which was a little bit better. And I sent it to a couple of people that I trusted, and they didn't say, their knee-jerk reaction wasn't like, this sucks. And so that gave me a little bit more confidence. And then I decided to do another cover song and like, again, send it to somebody, and they were like, oh, this sounds really good. And so I started singing on my own stuff. Then I did singles and videos. And then at the beginning of this year, I was just going to do yet another like single and video, because that's kind of what I've been doing for the last couple of years. And instead of doing another single and video, somebody suggested, hey, why don't you do an album? And I was like, nobody listens to albums. It's all about singles and videos. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, you know what? There's some songs that I've done over the last couple of years that like I'd like to go back and like make them better, because some of the production or mixes on them that they were bugging me over time. Like I had done them and I wished I could go back and make them better. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna take the songs that I like the best that I've done over the last couple of years, revise some mixes, throw a couple of new songs on there that haven't been released, and just I really wanted to clear out the clutter from the last couple of years and make like a cohesive, hey, this is what Raygun Romance is. The definitive statement of like, this is the project, this is the project, instead of, because I felt like over the last couple of years, or since I started, it was a little confusing. Like there was different singers, there was like, it just wasn't like a all in one stop shop kind of thing where like, this is what it is. It was kind of confusing, and I wanted to get rid of that. I wanted to be like, this is what Raygun Romance is. Yeah, that
totally makes sense. Now, this podcast is going to feature two of your tracks, Between the Lines and Adore You. What's the story behind those two songs?
Okay, so Between the Lines is a song very much inspired by struggling with some darker, maybe some depression, some addiction kind of issues, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then Adore You is very much inspired by a really, really serious relationship that I was in. And that was just sort of like had this crazy connection with somebody that right off the top, I knew right from the beginning, it was just like destined to fail. And that was not fun to deal with. But, this person and I had this like really, really intense and immediate chemistry. And so, yeah, I was inspired by that. I was just kind of recognizing that like it wasn't going to work, but holy shit, like I don't want to let go of this, because this is hard. This is something that doesn't come along all that often. And so I'm just rolling with it until, the wheels come off, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody's probably had a relationship like that at one time or another,
Maybe, but yeah.
I know I have.
Yeah, cool. Right on, man. Yeah, it was one of those things where I knew, again, like I said, right off the top, you click and you have I guess the thing that I wanted to say is like, it's having chemistry like that and a connection like that with somebody that quick and that intense is like hard to come by. So but I also knew it was going to end badly. But again, when you click that hard with somebody, it's really hard to say no to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of thing. Yeah. So.
No, I totally get it. Now, you have several music videos up on your YouTube page. Now, do you enjoy shooting the music videos as much as recording the music?
Yeah, man. I love making the videos. And the thing is like when I started it, like the whole project, I wanted to make videos, and there was like off the top of it, like I was struggling with that because I would hit people up and I'd be like, hey man, like I want to do a video, how much? And when can we do it? And it was always sort of this like flaky thing. And so again, out of necessity, I was like, screw it. Like I want to figure out how I can do this on my own. So Spider from Power Man and another person from the Power Man crew or whatever, I hit them up because I knew they knew videos or whatever. And they were like, I was like, dude, what kind of gear do I need? And they were like, dude, you can just do it with your phone. And I was like, nah, no, you can't.
Yeah, you can.
I was like, yeah, I know. And I was like, no, you can't do that with your phone. It's going to look amateur. I'm like, I don't want it to look amateur hour. Like it can't, And one of the merch guy, longtime merch guy from Power Man was like, dude, he's into film and stuff. He's like, get this app. He's like, check out this how to do it video. And he's like, trust me. And I was like, okay. And I did what he said. And I was like, oh shit, you know what? I think I'm going to try this like on my own. And I did. And the first one that I did, I had my girlfriend at the time help me. I got like a gimbal and this app, and like we did it in literally the empty apartment upstairs from me. And it looked fucking good. I was like, holy shit. Like, yeah. I think, I got a new laptop to like edit because, well, at the time I was like, oh, I got to do this in 4K. And that just destroyed my computer. I couldn't handle it. But it ended up being, I loved it. I'd been dying to do videos. Like, so it was super fun and it's super exciting. And, that all came about right around the same time that I started doing vocals and trying to mix my own stuff. And so I was psyched. I was like, hell yeah, I can do this on my own. Like, let's go. And so yeah, the video part of it is like super fun, but it's also challenging because, like I said, I had my girlfriend at the time doing it, filming me, and then I would edit it. But then once we split up, then I had nobody to film. I had nobody to film me, but I did one video completely on my own with just a ring light and a stand or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that worked out. That was the maybe video. And then I had this again, a girl I was in a relationship with, and she also modeled in like 3 or 4 of the videos, 3 of them. And she had a background in film, video and film, and that's when the videos like really like I feel like really got better and advanced big time. So that was the Adore You video, Counting the Days, and Make It Last, and then she helped with the most recent one, Between the Lines. But to answer your question, yeah, I love doing videos. Like, I'm about it, man. Like, I grew up watching MTV, and I wanted to make videos from day one. Like, I was super psyched, and so yeah, it's really fun, man, for sure.
Awesome. Now, which song is your favorite on the album and why?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I picked ones that I felt were the strongest, and I went back and fixed mixes that I felt needed fixing as best I could, re-recorded some stuff, and then again put, you know, 2 brand new tracks on there like this and Between the Lines, the title track. But oh man, picking a favorite, it's almost like I want to pick like one that's, I don't know, that's tough. I couldn't pick like one single one. Like I'm
You love each one of them, but for different reasons, correct?
Yeah, that's it, for sure. But at the same time, like I feel like maybe it's like when I listen to, say, the title track Between the Lines, like I feel like, oh, this one is better, you know, the best I've done. But like it's hard to say that. But yeah, it's tough to just pick one. I'm pretty proud. I would say the album in a whole is like that makes me happy overall, because it feels like the best thing I've done as a whole, you know, all together, if that makes sense. Yeah,
totally makes sense. I think it's a great album, and I enjoyed the videos that you put out so far as well.
Thanks, dude, and I really appreciate you reaching out and like wanting to talk to me, man. Yeah,
I think I ran across your band on Instagram. It must have been an ad or something like that.
It probably was, because that's the only way anybody seems to know about me.
I thought you were pretty interesting, and then I started looking up on YouTube, man. And I was like, wow, this cat's cool. So
yeah, dude, it's a tough game, and it's like I'm absolutely like, you know, hustling to get people aware of it, because, you know, I put everything into it, and it's like my whole heart and soul, and it's like there's a billion bands out there, and getting yourself noticed is like tough. So I appreciate you, you know, hitting me up and being interested, man. Yeah, thank you.
No problem, man. Now, what is it about music that makes you feel passionate?
Oh man, because originally, like, the first creative thing I ever did as a kid was I was all into drawing, and like, you know, I was into drawing and art, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I'm talking way young as a kid. And then somehow it just transitioned into music. It just became all about music. And I initially, I don't know, I just, like I said, I saw MTV. I loved the rock stars and the whole flashy, flamboyant thing. But once I got into actually playing it, then it became this full-on creative outlet. And I just loved so many things about it, from the way that it makes you feel, mm-hmm. the way that you can, you know, pour so much heart and soul into it and feeling into it, and the way that when you listen to, you know, the way that a song, you hear a song and the lyrics, mm-hmm. and they connect with you, and it resonates with you, and you're like, oh God, like I feel that they're talking to me. Like, right. Holy shit, they feel like I do right now. Like that. I remember getting my heart broken the first time, and I heard a song, and suddenly I was like, oh wow, like this is how I feel right now. And like, that was huge. I was like, oh my God, like wow, I know what they're talking about. Like that, I love that part of music, you know? And so I've always wanted to try to create stuff that's pure and from the heart, and that can hopefully resonate with somebody else. But mostly I want to create stuff that says what I'm feeling. That's because when I've heard music that I like and it resonated with me in that way, that was inspiring, and like that made me want. I was like, oh God, I want to do that. You know, like that's magic right there. You know what I mean? That makes sense.
Yeah, you want someone to have that same feeling and experience that you had when you first discovered music, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I also was like, I want to, I want what I create to be as pure as possible and be as true as possible. Like I'm not. Yes, I like creating music because it's fun, but I also am trying to express myself. It's expression. You know what I mean? It's like it's an outlet. Yeah,
therapy, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, man.
Very therapeutic. Now, do you have a website that you'd like to promote?
I would just say, like, early on, I had like a RaygunRomance.net or whatever the hell, but like I kind of just ditched it, and I'd say just go to YouTube, go to Instagram. Twitter sucks. I mean, I like Twitter, but like nobody's paying attention to it. I'm on Facebook too. You know, I would just say go to the social media stuff, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, that kind of thing. That's where I'm pushing, you know, what I'm doing, kind of thing.
Do you TikTok at all or no?
You know, oh man.
With your videos and stuff, you should try it.
I know I have this thing where like I'm just gonna age myself by saying it, and that's fine. But everything I see on TikTok, it just makes me cringe. So I'm like, no, I won't do it. I don't want to do it. But it's fucking terrible. But then I'm like, I know it's super popular, and like I
good
should
promotion
be on there. Yeah, so I'm not on TikTok, but I have this part of me that's like, I should probably get on there and like
do shorts.
It would help me. I'm struggling to keep up with Instagram and YouTube and all that. Like it's just me. There's nobody helping me. I don't have PR and like, you know, or management. It's just me. But that being said, like I'm very aware that like I should probably be on TikTok. I'm just not yet. But I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, which I haven't lately that much, but I'm out there. Get on Instagram, Facebook, I'm there. YouTube for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, is there anything you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about today?
I feel like I probably dabbled too much, but no, just by all means, like check out the full-length album that just came out a couple months ago, Between the Lines. It's the most cohesive collection of songs that, you know, and just this sort of, this is what Raygun Romance is. And by all means, go watch the videos on YouTube, please, and thank you. And I'm trying to get this thing live. It's just a work in progress at the moment. So thank you to everyone that watches and listens. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Ty, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really dig your style. I love the album and the videos, and I want to wish you the best of luck with it, you know, going forward. And anytime you got something you want to promote, if you want to come back on the show, I'd love to have you back on. Let's stay in touch. Definitely.
Dude, thank you very much. And by all means, like, if you can send me any sort of, you know, clip from this or anything I can, you know, I want to post and promote it. This interview for sure. Thank you.
When it's ready to go, you'll be the first to get a copy of it.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate it.
Like I said, Ty, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. And anytime you want to come back on, you're welcome, man. Let's stay in touch. All right.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate it. Thank you again.
All right, man. You have a great day. All right.
All right. You too. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
For what it's worth, For what it's worth, and I adore you for what it's worth. It's only for what it's worth, and I adore you for what it's worth. It's only everything that you reach for to make you stay. Don't say anything that will bleed for another day. Not everything that you reach for to make you stay. Don't say anything that will bleed for another day. Don't say anything that will bleed for what it's worth. And I adore you for what it's worth. It's only for what it's worth. And I adore you for what it's worth. It's only I adore you, adore you, adore you, and I adore you for what it's worth. It's only for what it's worth. I adore you. It's only.
The Record Machine Show is a weekly radio podcast produced by Jimmy Howell Productions. All rights reserved. For information regarding distribution or adding this podcast to your website, please visit our contact page at therecordmachineshow.com to submit your request. Thanks for listening. See you next time on The Record Machine Show.
The Record Machine Show.